Books make you hope. Books make you dream. Books make you laugh. Books make you scream. This is the Books That Make You show, discussing books with authors and experts, unraveling the inner pages of all the books that help make us who we are. Hosted by Desiree Duffy.
Welcome, everybody. It is time for the Books That Make You show, and I am your host, Desiree Duffy. Today, we are talking about books that make you want to build your dream house. I don't know about you, but with everything that's going on in the world right now, the idea of making one's home the most comfortable, beautiful, and amazing place to spend time with family and friends, well, that just sounds so alluring, doesn't it? I mean, you could make a cozy reading nook. You could have a cozy fireplace where you could read books to your kids and grandkids. Well, our guest today knows a thing or two about making people's dream homes become a reality. Bert Sarkkinen is the founder of Arrow Timber Framing and the author of the book, The Art of Hybrid Timber Framing. Now, the book is a guide for people who want to explore timber framing and for those who like the unique aesthetics that it offers. Trust me, it is beautiful. It's for people who enjoy architecture and design and home building. It's just this look into the amazing world of timber framing. And it also makes for a beautiful coffee table book or a gift for this time of the year. Now, fascinated with the way that people tick, Bert has discovered that he could match people's personalities to the right type of timber framing that works for them. He even invented this quiz for his potential clients to take. It's fascinating stuff because in addition to being the founder of this company and an author, Bert is also somebody who's really studied the way that people think and what they like and how they work. He's a business leader, he's a speaker, and he's an inspiration to many, and he is our guest on the show today. Hi, Bert. Welcome to the show.
Wow. Hi, Desiree. I'd like to meet that fellow you've just described.
And might I add that Bert Sarkkinen is very humble, too.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So I am one of those people that I love architecture. I love home design. I love the idea of just making your home this cozy, warm place. I mean, we live there. And especially nowadays with stuff just going on in the world, the world's gotten a little crazy. We're spending more time at home. We are teaching our kids at home. We are living more in our homes than ever before. So with that all said, can you talk a little bit about why timber frame? Well, first of all, start with what timber framing is. I want people to be educated too, because it's something that's, and especially the hybrid version that you do, it's something that miraculously a lot of people can take advantage of and they might not even realize it. So explain what it is to start with.
So timber framing, if I would start with post and beam construction, people might understand that better. Timber framing is how they used to build when they didn't have nails. It was the mortise, the tenon, and the wooden peg that holds things together. And so a lot of times that's an aha, okay. And so people know about that. And it's when people kind of got away from lean-tos and teepees in many places in the world, this timber framing kind of spontaneously developed in different cultures. And so it's a very old building craft. And it was used when America was founded on the East Coast. You find all kinds of timber frame examples and different variations of the immigrants from Europe you can find there on the East Coast. The reason that timber frame became a lost art, this could be a trivia question. So what are the top 3 reasons, Desiree, that you think timber framing became a lost art? This started around the turn of the century, 1900s, maybe a little sooner.
Oh my, why did it become a lost art? I would say that people were more interested in more modern or contemporary designs, and so it fell out of style.
Okay, so I don't know that that's the biggest driver. Styles kind of come and go, and exposed beams have typically been along with the ride, sometimes to a greater degree, sometimes to a lesser degree. I could go off on a tangent philosophically on why I believe timbers just inherently reach out and want to be exposed and part of the building. But the reasons that it died actually can be kind of tied to the Wild West.
Okay.
Because what made the Wild West so fast and easy to expand was that they developed a fast way to mass produce nails. Before, in the old days, colonial days, if a builder could get their hands on nails, they would use them in the front door because it was a sign of wealth. So okay, so when they figured out the mass producing nails, that was a big thing that allowed unskilled labor to knock together buildings, right? And then they had the steam engines and powered sawmills. So the railroad then could support what the sawmill produced. And, just like that, people figured out they could build things faster. And that's our conventional framing today, platform framing. It evolved as balloon framing first, then developed to platform framing. And so now today what we have is timber framing is and especially hybrid timber frame, which is what 90% of everything done with exposed beams.
Can you explain what hybrid timber framing is? Because I didn't realize this until I met you and checked out your book, that you can have an existing home and have timber framing. This isn't something that you need to build a home with, right?
Correct. A lot of people start off with the dream of building a full timber frame, like they did back in the colonial days or in bygone years before then. When it comes down to time, effort, and money that's going to be put into that, as well as some design constraints that are required to build a full timber frame, people say, well, what if we just focus on our entry, the curb appeal, maybe the great room in the kitchen, and maybe a back patio. Mm-hmm. That is kind of your poster child for hybrid timber framing. Now, if you've got a remodel, we've come in and done these makeovers where we've been accused of the before and after pictures where people have said, that's not even the same house.
That's fantastic. We're going to show some of the photos too. So I know that the people who are only listening to the audio are like trying to envision this. So I encourage you to check out this show on YouTube as we show some of those beautiful pictures, because again, not only is timber framing beautiful, but the book is beautiful, and the words just don't do it justice. It's something that you've got to see to appreciate.
You bet. And then one more thing on hybrid timber framing. So it's the old world craftsmanship with the mortise and the tenon and the pegs, and a lot of times the golden ratios that were used back in the day, and this just a natural beauty that is found in nature and then custom fit to someone's style as well as the style they're building. And by someone's style, I mean their personal taste and the needs, the function of the building. That all comes together. And so we're taking the old piece of that beam craftsmanship thing, and then we're using it with conventional construction that was developed with the expansion of the Wild West. And that is the essence of hybrid timber framing, new and old together.
Exactly. And this really is an art, and you call this personalized art. Why do you say it's personalized?
Well, there's a lot of timber framing that I think is, one and done, slam bam, thank you, ma'am. Just go through. And so I guess timber framing isn't necessarily art, but what we're trying to do is sell less timbers, really be extremely judicious about the timbers, where they're at and the form they take and how they affect the energy of the room and the space, and really teaming that up or joining that up with what people want. So when they come to us, when they're starting to build or starting to remodel, they might not be aware of it, but we're listening with a keen ear for what might be unsaid, what they really might want, and really figuring out how to capture what's unique about them and their project, and then really emphasize that with the placement of timbers and really make it unique.
That's the neat thing too, is this is something that you create specialized for them. This isn't cookie cutter. Nobody is going to have the exact same timber framing as somebody else. So this, I feel, is where your style, your tastes coming together, a husband and wife perhaps coming together to create this vision is something that they can really be proud of. And then they get to live in it, which is really cool. So tell us a little bit, because you've actually developed a quiz, almost like a personality test, to really dig in and figure out what people like.
Mm-hmm. So as far as success to us, really, I don't like to say that we have all the ideas. And there's been many times that clients have said, well, let's try this or that. And I thought it was a bad idea and it turned out good. Okay. So what success to us is where we're guides. We're putting a lot of ideas out there. We're trying to cull the bad ones and present just the best ideas. But when the client has their fingerprints all over it, they've had a lot of input, a yes, no. When their fingerprints are all over this whole timber design and when it's finally up, I mean, that's going to resonate for years. So that's ding, ringing the bell for us. So just want to emphasize that our clients are every bit as part of our success as we are. So choosing the right clients is huge for us.
That is so cool. So tell us a little bit about some of your experiences working with people, and what are some of the styles? Because I know there's rustic style and classical style. Talk a little bit about the different styles that people tend to gravitate towards.
This would tie back to that original, you asked about the quiz and how that came about and matching. So there's 7 styles in the book. There's modern, there's rustic, there's craftsman, European. We've got one style that's called coastal because we ran across that. And if you happen to be an architect listening to this and you go to the book, I would just ask that when you read the styles and how we've bunched them together, that we've had to kind of have a heavy hand to do this, because styles that have been generated throughout the ages, there's so many styles that you kind of have to have a heavy brush to differentiate, delineate. And people's style, we've found out, so Duffy took this quiz. Desiree took it. And she was an anomaly in that she was so far on the elegance scale that we very rarely see that. She was European as number 1, which has a lot of elegance, and then classic, which is heavy on the curves and the arches and the flow. Rustic can have some curves as long as the timbers are big and huge. And so someone looking for rustic is they have different tastes, and we see such a mix that the styles, I would really say that this is kind of like a smorgasbord, and we're just trying to figure out what's right. And we don't really, once we get going, we don't really care about the labels. We understand each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you just, the styles that we've started with in a style quiz, sometimes it's not really correct, but it's a great way to get started. We're both starting on level ground, and we listen to understand what words mean to certain people. For example, sometimes we get pictures if clients really love, and so we're looking at the timbers and so they have to save 20 pictures. And well, it turns out that some of these pictures that they really love happens to be the color of the stone on the fireplace and not so much the timbers. Well, the information we're getting off of those pictures is we're seeing the timbers. That's why I was chosen. So pictures, while they speak 1,000 words, they can really make you drink from a fire hose. So this style quiz gets just another angle that kind of can maybe dilute that information a little bit to where you're really, when the pictures come in, you can kind of, without really thinking about it, understand what they're trying to communicate with pictures. And a lot of times it's actually led to where we propose a different style based on their quiz. And it just really like, wow, we prefer this rather than what we had said we wanted.
Yeah, that's the great thing about it. It kind of reveals something about your personality and your likes that you might not know you had, because I thought I was a little bit more on the rustic side personally, because I like that. I will gravitate to that. But you're absolutely right. The elegance and the clean lines, I can dig that too. So when you're working with people too, and I understand that sometimes they might show you something that you might look at and say, wow, that's ugly. And you have what's called the 4 levels of ugly.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that and how that ties into being happy and ultimately finding your happiness?
You bet. So 4 levels of ugly, really, when clients do business with us, we are only dealing with the most superficial level. That's aesthetics and how it functions and how good of an investment this is. And so that's relatively simple. Everyone has their taste, and it's just a style quiz, and we've developed a system to work around this. So what can really sap our joy in our work is there's 3 other levels that we've identified for ugly, and it's kind of goes back to the attitude, thinking perspectives, then what you're saying, and then how you act. Sometimes that, even if it's not directly with us, if we see that someone's really having a hard time with the building process, or maybe a man and a wife are kind of at each other's necks a little bit, and maybe not so overtly and while working with them, but you can just get the undercurrents of it. That takes away just kind of like, it's just a little bit of a Debbie Downer for the project. Mm-hmm. And the worst ones are when people get a divorce after it's done. You hear about it years later, then there's a divorce, and it's kind of like, well, shucks. That's a Pyrrhic victory, right? I mean, this beautiful timber frame really feels like a Pyrrhic victory.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. Now, in writing this book, and now this is the 2nd edition of the book too. Congratulations on that. So I'm going to pull it back a little bit to more about you and writing this book, and how you've really just, you're a leader in business. You are an inspiration to your employees. You actually, have some leadership tips that I know that are really important to you. Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about your leadership philosophy or your business philosophy. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Okay. So really, the thing that drives me is I want to give and get long-term happiness. So as far as a leadership philosophy, anything that I do would drive to that end. So when I can help coach my guys, just see how they're doing, talk to them, what are their goals, that feels good. And when I see them bettering themselves, and it doesn't even have to be directly with learning something that's going to help the company. If they want to learn Spanish, for example, or they have a hobby that is whatever it is, building, whatever it is. We have one of our core values is driven to learn and do. And that just really makes me happy when guys take the initiative and do this, when they want to learn math and apply, triangles. And we need something to do, and we need to feel like we're moving forward to be happy. And so my leadership style is driven to that end. Sometimes when I look back at my past, I can see maybe I was a little too heavy on the achievement side, and my self-awareness was a little low to where things would kind of fall flat. And so that's a work in progress, right? I do think we get better as we get more experience.
Absolutely. And you started your history going way, way back when you were 16 years old. You were working as a farmhand, and it was your father that gave you the opportunity to work with him. And that's eventually what led to you starting your own business, correct?
Correct.
Can you tell us what you mean when you say that people should always break a sweat before taking a shower?
So if anyone in the audience here has read The Power of Habit or Atomic Habits or any of these, there's a Kaizen book, I believe, a Japanese, really small starts. So this was a way for me to never let go of physical exercise. I like it myself. I've got some equipment, got some buddies that work out, but sometimes things get busy and whatnot. And so one of my rules that I've lived by for the last 15 or 18 years has been to never shower before breaking a sweat. So that doesn't mean that I have to make it to the gym. It could mean 2 or 3 minutes of burpees or jumping jacks or anything like that, just something quick. And it just kept the burner warm. The burner never goes cold. And I believe it has something to do with how we see ourselves. By doing that little 3-minute piece or 2-minute piece, if I go a couple days, that I still see myself as someone who exercises. And it's also, so I don't know, but it's really worked well for me. I've never fallen off the wagon for more than 3 days.
I love that. It's great advice. I mean, and I love too the fact that you have a business and you built this up, and you and your team, you're obviously working with your hands. And I mean, it's your artisans as well as people who are healthy and getting the exercise that you need too.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of advice, what would you like to say to future business leaders? Or maybe, what would you say to your younger self? What advice would you give for people that are just starting out?
Just starting out and just in business in general?
Yeah.
Or even for authors, the advice I would give myself, or to say one of my sons, in fact, I have, it really can boil down to understanding yourself. And that isn't going to come overnight. It actually changes over time. So a real simple, pithy piece of advice would be to journal. Cheap psychiatric help. Right? And it's, even if it's just one sentence a day, just so that it happens, a little bit like that, never take a shower without breaking a sweat. Even if I just get a sentence in a journal with the date and the time, and it's just kind of every day, then you kind of don't want to break the chain. And then when you are a little bit more clear in the head and have a little bit more time, you'd be amazed at what kind of stuff runs off the tip of your pen. It really is enlightening. And so that would be, understanding yourself is a huge thing, and asking yourself, why do I want to do what I want to do? And that can even be a game that goes 2 or 3 levels deep. Once you get the answer to the first why, ask it again. And in some ways, that game is a little bit, I don't know, it's enlightening, but in some ways, it's all roads lead to Rome. People typically wind up with freedom and fulfillment at the end of that game.
Oh, that is very true. Now, did you journal? Were you writing as you were developing this book? Is that where it came out of? Did that help you in your writing process?
So writing itself, even a book, is a form of doing a journal, I believe. And it's really a form of giving. And I think that's what fuels a lot of authors. it's a form of giving, and there's really something special about it. Whenever I get a day where I've done a lot of writing, so journaling is one form, but I've just written an article for our next inspiration report called Feng Shui and Timber Framing. Okay, so there's a story that happened to a couple I know, and it gets a little bit humorous. But when I was done with that article writing it, I had 6 hours, 8 hours, all told by the time I was from conception to completion. It felt good, and I was happy about it, and that lasts for about a week. And then there's the itch of accomplishment comes scratching at the door again, but it really feels good to give in that way, because I know the audience has a high probability of getting something out of it, and there's some clarity that comes with it. And I don't know any more to say that some writing for someone else is another form of clarity as well as journaling.
Oh, yeah, I definitely can see that. And the book is beautiful. And again, we're showing some of the pictures on the screen here. So if you're just listening to the show, make sure you check us out on YouTube and check out the book because it's so gorgeous. The Art of Hybrid Timber Framing. Who would you like to, who do you feel this book is for? Who is your target audience, Bert?
Okay, so the target audience is, in a real general sense, anyone who intends to influence the look and feel of their building project using exposed beams, so beams that will be seen. Anyone who intends to do that, this book is for. Our audience is broken down to owners, so homeowners, architects, and builders. The homeowner who initiates the vision, the architect depicts it, and we have a hat in that ring also. So when it comes to timber framing, we found that is really works well sometimes to do the whole design for the right people. Sometimes people bring their plans to us. Sometimes they bring their whole home to us, as in a remodel. And so we work with what's there. And then of course there's the builders. And with that design eye and just making things work, it's a little bit like a magician where you kind of direct your eye somewhere else so you're not seeing anything. And I wonder, like when a makeup artist, when they look at someone's cheekbones and eye structure and this, they know where to shadow and highlight and really balance this. And so there's golden ratios in a face that have beauty, and then there's unique asymmetric beauty, and all this kind of plays into, I think it's the same game with a different medium.
Oh, yeah. I love that allegory. That makes perfect sense. And again, I mean, you're an artist, and you and your team, what you're doing, you're creating personalized art. So I think it makes sense whether you're a makeup artist or a painter. It all kind of comes from that same place. So bravo to you for writing this book and releasing it. Tell people where it is that they can find the book, probably Amazon, all those usual places, but also give us your website, or you have two websites. Let people know where they can find you. So
for the timber framing, that would be arrowtimber.com, ARROW, T as in Tom, IMBER.com, arrowtimber.com. And there's all kinds of contact information and pictures and past articles. There's a trove of information there, as well as BertSarkkinen.com. And that's really delves into what I like to do keynote speeches on, my interests, my hobbies. I've gotten into economics. There's a lot of, once I get something in my teeth, it's hard to let go. My wife sometimes not so lovingly calls me dog on a bone. But there's a lot of interest and stuff that I share on that side as well. Excellent. Bert, you are a man of many layers, and we could probably have a bazillion conversations about different topics, but we're going to need to wrap it up for now. I just want to add, I follow your Instagram feed too, social media, and it's beautiful, especially if people like to look at pictures, and you show
some videos and things like that too. So I would highly recommend that people follow you on social media as well.
And those pictures for all the COVID and all this stuff, we've really seen a lot of people put more into their home as they're going to spend more time at home. So outdoor living, there's a lot of different ideas for that. And so that's really some good things to make home more home.
Oh, exactly. And that's it. You hit the nail right on the head with that one. It's all about home and where we live and where we spend time with our loved ones. I think that's what it all boils down to. Bert Sarkkinen, thank you so much for being here today on the Books That Make You show. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Desiree.
You bet. And thank you everybody for being here as well on the Books That Make You show. And you can find us on our website. It's booksthatmakeyou.com. As well, we're on Facebook and Instagram. You can also sign up for our newsletter and find out all about authors and books like Bert's book. And you can also win bookish prizes. We've always got something going on, so make sure you check that out. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, my bookish buddies, please enjoy all of the books that make you exactly who you are.
The executive producer for Books That Make You is Desiree Duffy. Produced and sound mastered by Phil Giangrande. Engineering by Dave Nabox. Social media and promotion by Bree Sweeter. For more, visit booksthatmakeyou.com.